subject of May 1997, triple heart bypass.
Oh yeah.
Talk us through that day. How did that day begin for you?
Well, I got up. It was a perfectly nice day, and I was feeling fine. I was feeling normal. I was living on my own, near Kingston, and I went to make a cup of tea. This is about 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning, and I got this massive pain from my one shoulder to the other, which literally kind of dropped me down on my knees, and I realised I was still alive, and that what was that, a heart attack? And I've survived it. What was that? But it really, really hurt. I'd never felt anything like it before. So I thought, well, sort of unlike me, I'd better go and see the doctor. So I put a tracksuit on, phoned my doctor up in Harley Street, and I told him what would have happened. He said he'd come in straight away. So I nipped in. I thought he was going to check me over. Well, you're fine now, you know. Must have been whatever, you know, tablets, something, you know, give me. And I explained what had happened, and he said, I really don't like what I'm hearing here. So he said, you better go around the hospital, get checked out. I said, come on. I said, you know, I want to go home. I've got things to do today. He said, no, go round and get checked out. So I did. I went round to the hospital. I can't even remember the name of the hospital now. It's a quite famous private hospital. And they took me in and they said, well, we're going to do an angiogram. And I said, what's that? They said, well, we're going to stick a tube up your groin. Oh, God. As you can imagine, me being a fan of needles and all that sort of thing, I was very happy that they were going to stick a tube up my groin and squirt me with ink. Anyway, they did it, and put me back in the room. And about an hour later, I'm sitting there, you know, I wanted to go home. And they came back in and they said, well, it's bad news. They said, we've got to operate on you within 24 hours or you could die. And to try and take something like that in is quite difficult, you know. What? And here, they're not saying to me, well, look, you can go off and get a second opinion if you want. They're not saying that. They're saying, we've got to keep you in here now and operate on you tonight. This was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon now. So you try and sort of take it in that you know, you've got to have a quadruple heart bypass. This is a big deal. You know, sores and everything. It's big news. So I phoned my mum up at the time and I said, look, you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. And I phoned David Walker up. You're not going to believe it. I phoned Francis. You're not going to believe what I'm going to... And just to tell people that, their reaction, you're going to have a what? Are you sure? I said, no, I'm not sure. But these people are, and they must know what they're doing. Anyway, so I sat there and came to terms with it. A couple of hours later, I'm not feeling so shocked about it because they've kind of wound me down, you know. Quadruple heart bypass. Okay, you know, that's all right with me. And 1 o'clock in the morning, they took me to the surgery, and took 4 hours apparently. And the next morning, I could have came round, and there I was, tubes coming out of everywhere. You know, my stomach, chest, sides, mouth, nose, pinned up, bloody drips in me, everything ticking, bleeping round the bed. Stone me, you know, and there it is, done. And you can't, you know, you can never believe an operation. It takes that long since they go, well, you'll, you know, 5, 4, and you're gone. Next second you wake up, and it's done. Zip in my chest and everything, and it wasn't necessarily painful because I was on, you know, so much painkilling stuff. And a couple of days later, 3 or 4 days later, I said, can I have a drink or what? And the doctor said, well, you can have some red wine if you want. So I sent out for a couple of bottles of red wine, and people were coming to see me, and it turned into a little bit of a party in the room, you know, of balloons and stuff like that. I'm only 4 days on from the op, having a few glasses of red wine. And I did actually manage to smoke a cigarette in the hospital as well. Went in the loo, made me way over to the loo somehow and smoked a fag. And what was it, 11 days later I came out. All sorts of lovely people had sent me such nice stuff, you know. I came out and I spent 6 weeks at home recovering. Just laid on a sofa, had the occasional walk. Had to take a cushion everywhere with me in case I sneezed. You think it's all going to go bing, 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 bing. And I had to hold this cushion. The first time I did sneeze, it's fucking frightening because you think your chest is going to split open. But yeah, I kind of got used to it. And 12 weeks later, I was back on stage. Didn't know what to expect. I thought, well, this is the first energy I'm going to expel since that operation. And I went out and I thought, well, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to go for it, you know. So I did, and here we are now. However many hundreds of gigs ago that was, and no problems.
Thanks. Francis said to us the other week, he said, since then, in those sort of 10 years or so that have gone by, he said, Rick and I have often sat down and kind of gone to each other, I wonder if you needed that. He said, because most people you meet in this life who've had a triple heart bypass, they're on warfarin for life, they're on this drug, that drug. He said, the only thing I know that Rick's on is red and white wine. He said, I wondered, what's your take on it?
I'd never really been ill in my life, not with anything like that, and any heart problems, you know. Nobody in my family has ever died from a heart attack. Nobody's ever had angina in my family. Of course, after the event, when it's all too late, you think, well, how did I know I needed that? I mean, they told me I do, I suppose, but, you know, again, I say, I wasn't able to get a second opinion. And you kind of think to yourself, well, we haven't got many operations in this week, you know, it's 50 grand this one, let's do it. I shall never know whether I needed that operation. It's only they said I did. I felt perfectly okay. All right, I've had this angina attack, and everybody I've spoken to since then is, oh, a bit of angina, yeah, you take tablets for it and control it. Not in my case, and I shall never know. So it's best not to think about it. The thing to think about, which is a bit of a worry, I said, well, this will last you for 10 years or so, and that was nearly 14 years ago now. So it's nice to wake up every day, you know.